joining me this morning. I'm Andrea Praber, and today we're tackling some tough subjects, very tough subjects. We're going to be talking about homestead exemptions and how you can take title in Florida and how it all applies to you. Very scary stuff, right? I promise it won't be boring. It won't be scary. I've always kind of struggled with these subjects since I don't want to come off as giving some kind of legal advice when I'm definitely not. If you've been a long-time listener of my show, I try to educate and inform, but 9 times out of 10, you probably don't know what my personal views and opinions or advice would be, because I am humble enough to acknowledge that's not my place. It's not my place. I am a real estate broker and instructor, but I am not an attorney. I am not a title officer. I've never even played one on TV. So the advice I will give you from here is to make absolutely certain you have an attorney or at least to consult an attorney before you buy any real estate in Florida. Real estate is one of the most expensive purchases you will ever make in your life. And it's one of those things that people often pass down over the generations. So making sure you're doing it right from the start is invaluable. If you like my list of preferred local attorneys that can help you with estate planning, will writing, trust creation, all that kind of stuff, real estate as well, go ahead and email me at GER.ExpectMore@gmail.com so we can get that information over to you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the homestead stuff first, okay? Now, to qualify for homestead in Florida, you have to demonstrate that you have resided in Florida in that home prior to your application of January 1st of the year you applied. A lot of people confuse this and think you have to be a resident for a year. You do not. The application deadline also, just to confuse you further, is March 1st. So you just have to be there before January. So if your homestead exemption is approved, which it normally is, you're entitled to a reduction of $25,000 in the assessed value of your home. So most homesteaders also qualify for an additional $25,000 reduction in assessed value from all the levies and all of that. So the only thing that you can't do is the schools, that they get their money. So here's a really simplistic view of how this whole thing works. Okay, so each year the property appraiser is going to determine the value of your home. So if the exemptions are approved, they're reduced from the assessed value. And that results in the taxable value of the home. So the appropriate millage, that's the tax rate, is applied to the taxable value to determine how much tax is due. So if the property is homesteaded, the property appraiser may only increase the assessed value of the home by the lesser of 3% or the percentage rate of the consumer price index, the CPI, if you've ever seen that before. And that's even if the actual value of the home has increased substantially, like it has lately. Over time, if the value of the home goes up due to changes in supply, demand, or due to inflation or a global pandemic, the built-in benefit of the cap on the assessed value of the homestead, that increases. Your value increases. So a lot of people do ask and they wonder what happens if they move. Well, fortunately for those who want to remain in Florida, Florida residents, when they move to a new Florida home, Florida allows you to bring your existing homestead benefit with you. So pretty nice. You can port it. So if you move from one homestead property to another, you can port your accumulated property tax cap benefit to your new home instead of just forfeiting it. So to apply for that, you have to reside in your new homestead property before January 1st of the year you intend to qualify, same thing. And then you have to go to the new property appraiser's office if it's not in Marion County, and you're going to file the appropriate paperwork to file for your new homestead property, and make sure that you also port your homestead exemption, and that's again before the March 1st deadline. Okay, so those deadlines are super important. Now, what else does a Florida homestead help you with? Well, I'm glad you asked. Homestead in Florida, it's a law that also protects your house from forced sale by a civil judgment or creditor. So that's why a lot of people that have a lot of money like to buy in Florida. So if you owe money on a judgment, the creditor cannot take your home away. Investment properties, yes. Home, no. There's a lot of exceptions to that, of course. Homestead protects you, from certain things, but it's not going to protect you from like liens on the homestead property when you did it voluntarily, like through a mortgage. Okay, so if you secure a loan on a mortgage, they can still foreclose. We all know that. We've seen foreclosures in Florida. Also mechanics liens. So if you have somebody come out and do repairs or improvements to your property and then you fail to pay them, then they can go ahead and put a lien on your property. There's also liens for like a homeowners association or special assessments. That's something that can go against the property as well. The other thing is, of course, the IRS. Property taxes, state taxes, and IRS tax liens can go on the property as well. So now we're going to get into the fun part. How many different ways are there to hold title in Florida? Four. So you got tenants in common, joint tenancy, joint tenants with right of survivorship, and tenancy by the entireties. Are you confused yet? Okay, hopefully not. All right, we're going to take broad strokes on this. Tenants in common in Florida is when you, or more than just you, purchase real estate in Florida. That's kind of the default classification for it. So it might say, you might see it on deeds and stuff, and it'll say so-and-so, John and Mary are tenants in common. So that's basically, even if it doesn't say that, it's presumed that it's a tenancy in common when it's not a marriage. Marriage is different. But if it's two roommates, that's what you're going to get. All right. Tenants in common, they have equal ownership percentage in the real estate property. Okay, that's very important. How much of a percentage and what happens to the property, your portion of the property when you're no longer with us, is really a great deal of why these different title things are going on. So if you are going to be leaving something, an inheritance to your beneficiaries, you better figure this stuff out before you take title. Or if you maybe are thinking right now, maybe I should go ahead and change how I'm taking title. So, of course, again, you can consult an attorney, have a last will and testament. A lot of people have the misunderstanding, though, that that's going to keep their beneficiaries out of probate court. That is not the case. Ask any attorney, and they will explain all of the different ramifications and things. There's also some people will go ahead and put title in one of their children's names. Again, you really need to consult an attorney. Okay, because that is definitely, it's something maybe done before, but there's better ways now that might benefit them far better than doing something like that. And again, it also depends on how you took title. Okay, so you want to make sure that how you took title was the best way to do that. So again, explaining with an attorney what you want and what your goal is. Be very upfront and honest with them exactly what you're trying to accomplish, and they can very, very easily help you with that. So, all right, so that's something we want to try and help keep your family, your beneficiaries out of probate court and not have to pay a bunch of death taxes, and for them to actually get the property, because sometimes that happens too, depending on how you took title. So you want to be really careful with that. All right, now what about tenants in common? If you are investing in real estate with one or more persons, then owning property as a tenant in common might be a good choice. So if you pass away, then your heirs can inherit the property. It also might make some sense for married couples to own it that way if they have maybe this is their third marriage or their second marriage. They don't have children together, or they have children from different marriages. This might be a really good option. It is not the default, though, so be careful of that. You do have to explain exactly which way you want to take title. And if you don't know and don't understand it 100%, definitely consult an attorney. All right. Next one we're going to go over is joint tenancy. So joint tenancy in Florida is basically all the same things as tenancy in common, except that all the joint tenants must have the same equal percentage of interest in the property. Got that one? All right, so joint tenancy is also not going to help them avoid Florida probate court, okay? So again, if you are really trying to help your beneficiaries stay out of probate court, we greatly appreciate that. We really do. So definitely consult an attorney ahead of time to make sure that you have all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed to help with that. I'm sure your beneficiaries will greatly appreciate it. All right, what about joint tenancy with right of survivorship? Well, that's kind of goes without saying. A joint tenancy with a right of survivorship is all the same features as a joint tenancy, with the additional feature that when one joint tenant passes away, his or her interest in the real property will automatically pass to the survivor. Okay, so that's a little bit different there too. So really all you have to do with something like that is you just take the death certificate of the person that passed away, you take it over to the property appraiser's office where the real property is located, and then because it's titled that way, that person then becomes, they're going to basically notate or record that there's a death certificate and you move on, okay? So you'll see that sometimes in the property appraiser's records. There's death certificate. There you go. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Those things are recorded, and it just goes much simpler because they figured out ahead of time how they wanted to take title and made it much simpler for the surviving tenant. All right. So what about, we're going to go to the next one. Because that one, if there's like errors or anything like that, it's not going to the error, it's going to the other person. That really happens a lot with businesses and stuff. So definitely seeing that. So again, trying to avoid that probate court, kind of try and keep you guys out of court, if at all possible. But again, all you have to do is sit down with an attorney. I promise I can't say they're not scary because some of them are, but most of them not so much. So okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the last one. I think we make up to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're up to the fourth one, the last one. All right, tenancy by the entireties. All right, so a tenancy by the entireties has all the same features of a joint tenancy with right of survivorship, except that the tenancy by the entireties can only be created by a married couple. In fact, it's pretty much the way that married couples take title. It's kind of the default for them. So if you are wanting something different, you make sure and let them know, because otherwise they're going to go straight to this when you're doing a regular real estate transaction, having a title company do it and everything. This is the default for married couples. So what happens at this is at the time the death of one spouse, the real estate interests pass automatically to the surviving spouse. It's just goes straight there. So it's very, very similar to joint tenancy with right of survivorship. The same thing as the joint tenancy with right of survivorship, at the death of the spouse, if nothing more is done than the death of the surviving spouse, Florida probate will probably need to happen to do that. So anyway, that's a really, really, really common situation, okay? Really common. But what happens is one spouse passes away and the surviving spouse doesn't do anything with estate planning or anything like that, and they end up in probate court, or they go to sell and then they realize once they've already got everything all the way through, they can't sell, because then they have to start the probate process. There is not a worse cuss word for a real estate agent than when you hear that word. And when we hear probate, it's like, oh no, because it is a lengthy process once you go through the courts, and it can take several months. And unfortunately, if that widow or widower needs the funds, they are just they're just gonna have to wait. There's no way around it. So again, it is very inconvenient if you do have to go through the probate court system, because it can be lengthy. There's certain things that just absolutely must be done. So if you can get all of your affairs in order before you get to that position, then all of your beneficiaries will greatly appreciate it. because it does protect them. And that's what we really want to do. When we pass things on, we want to protect our loved ones and give them a gift. But sometimes that gift, when not wrapped properly, can end up being just a big honking mess. So we don't want to do that. So I know there's a lot of people that are a little superstitious about talking about death and stuff, but death is a part of life, right? So we want to go ahead and have those discussions ahead of time and make sure what you want with your property is actually what's going to happen. And that's a very, very simple thing to do. So again, if you want that list of attorneys that we recommend in our area, please feel free to just send me an email at GER.ExpectMore@gmail.com and I will get that out to you. There's also title companies I could send you, lenders. There's Andrea's list is basically what it is. So just keep in mind we have all of those for you. If you ever need a recommendation for anything under the sun, please just let me know. If you have any questions or anything like that regarding real estate, I'd be more than happy to help you out. If you need help with estate planning, wills, trusts, any of that kind of stuff, that's going to be an attorney. Now, I am a trustee, a professional trustee, but I am very, very, very selective with who I work with that, because I want to make sure that the situation that I am walking into as professional trustee is going to be a situation that I can handle. Sometimes you have a lot of family members that have a differing opinion of what you should do with your stuff than you do. And going into a situation like that is very, very, very difficult and definitely handled better while you're still around to handle it. So something like that might be better to going to an attorney. So I will review it with you to see if you would like me to be a professional trustee. I've done videos and stuff before on that. But when it comes to doing, especially with something regarding property management, sometimes it's better to go with a professional trustee if they handle that aspect or have a lot of experience in that, because it's very simple for somebody like me to do that aspect of it. Now, if you have a whole bunch of stocks and you have a whole bunch of bonds and all this other stuff, I'm probably going to say, no, that's not really my wheelhouse, and back away slowly. But that is something that I do for some people, very selective with that, to make sure that I can help the customer do exactly what they want done. And that's the real key. That's the whole point of the process, right? So hopefully you will also get that, what you want done, even when you're not around, to make sure it gets done, just by doing a little bit of planning. I think the big question, I'm not sure, I don't remember, I never remember who says these things, but the big question is, if you have 4 hours to cut down a big tree, you spend the first 3 sharpening the axe, and then it's so much simpler. So just do that little bit of, sharpening of the axe and planning and preparing, and it's going to go a lot smoother down the road. All right, real quick, when I come back after this break, we are going to talk about fun stuff coming up here in Ocala. Be right back. Okay, and now that we're back, we're going to go ahead and tell you all about the fun stuff that you could do in and around Ocala this weekend. We have over at the Riley Theater on the 8th, we've got Gaelic Storm and the High Kings. So if you're wanting to hear that sounds like a really fun time. It's 7:30 p.m. I love some Celtic music. We also, down at downtown Ocala, over at Citizens Circle, it's Ocala Beer and Wine Festival. So that is definitely something to go out and see. We also have the Marion County Farmland Preservation Festival from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's got tractor and horse parade, live entertainment, farm animals, farmers market, and food. So it should be really interesting for that one. And then over at the Ocala Mall, they've got a grand opening, and they're going to be doing from 9:30 a.m. on. They're going to be doing face painting. They've got food trucks, bounce houses, and tons of shopping, of course. So lots of stuff going on down there. Don't forget, next weekend we have Boomtown Days in downtown Denellen, and that's going to be on the 15th, and it's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's probably one of the larger events that we have in Denellen. And then we also have the Minis Royal Ball where you can actually dance through the night away through with Minnie, Belle, Ariel, and Moana. And it's a family and couples event. So that's going to be the 15th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's also a Spanish Springs cruise in if you're going to go down to the villages and check that out. That's from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. again on the 15th. And really, really neat, I wanted to share with you that there is a superhero autism fun walk where everybody can dress as their favorite superhero. And that's over at the Baseline Trailhead. It's 10:30 a.m. on the 15th. So you're going to dress up as your favorite superhero and walk in this event. Kids and adults are welcome. They're also going to have some sack races, which I haven't actually seen a real live sack race in forever. But they're also going to have sports and games, and there's going to be a costume contest, and there's going to have local entertainment, food, drinks, everything. And it's all to provide service for the autism community and to bring awareness. So should be really, really great, lots of fun, and really excited to go to that. So it should be really fun. Again, fun walk. You do not have to be a marathon sprinter or something crazy like that. But if you are, you're welcome as well. All right, on the 16th, we also have Celtic Visions. And then we also have a family day over at Silver Spring State Park. So just all sorts of really great and fun stuff coming up. And don't forget, on the 14th, just have to mention the Levitt Amp music series is going on. It's the best thing that comes to Ocala. I absolutely love it. It's a free music series over at Webb Field. So really fantastic experience if you can go out there and listen to some live music. Best free concert around. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed your time with us, and we will see you next Saturday at 10 a.m. right back here on WITG 104.7. Thanks so much. Bye.
Move with the rhythm, shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. Sing